A few hours into the first day of testing, last year's constructors' champion, McLaren, had yet to set a lap time, the only team in that position. However, McLaren insisted this was all part of its planned run schedule. The team took its time with initial runs, using aero sensors before ramping up its laps. Once Oscar Piastri returned to the track, McLaren was as busy as any other team. Lando Norris followed suit in the afternoon session, eventually setting the fastest lap of the day, 0.4 of a second clear of the competition. While George Russell, Mercedes, and Max Verstappen, Red Bull, later closed the gap, they benefited from better track conditions. Red Bull's RB21 appeared somewhat tricky to handle, with both Verstappen and Liam Lawson struggling at times. Lawson even suffered the day's only spin. Despite that, Verstappen managed to extract competitive lap times, and his long-run pace was strong, 0.4 quicker than Norris on the same C3 tire compound. However, unknown fuel loads and engine settings leave room for interpretation. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc posted the 4th fastest time, but his lap was set early in the afternoon session, likely with a heavier fuel load. Ferrari appeared to focus more on long-run data, making its true performance difficult to gauge. That said, its strong straight-line speed hints at a promising start. Overall, McLaren's performance on day one reinforced its status as an early preseason favorite. Team CEO Zak Brown's claims of bold innovations on the 2025 car seemed to be proving effective. Preseason images of the RB21 were no illusion. The car bears a striking resemblance to its 2024 predecessor. Many expected Red Bull to introduce more radical changes, but the team hasn't sprung any surprises in Bahrain. According to team boss Christian Horner, every aerodynamic surface has been refined in some way, but the visible changes are minimal. A slightly reshaped side pod, revised air intakes, winglets on the halo, a different engine cover, and a modified beam wing. Why such an evolutionary approach? Red Bull believes the 2024 car was fundamentally strong despite its mid-season struggles and didn't require drastic changes to return to top form. Additionally, the team appears cautious about allocating resources to a major overhaul for 2025, preferring to focus on the upcoming 2026 regulation changes. One subtle, yet significant adjustment is greater front-wing flexibility. TV footage has already shown noticeable flexing of the upper elements in Bahrain, suggesting Red Bull is exploring aerodynamic tweaks that aren't immediately visible. Lewis Hamilton's first official day of testing in a Ferrari was a mixed affair, at least on the timing sheets. While his teammate Charles Leclerc finished 4th fastest, Hamilton was down in 13th, nearly a second slower. However, testing lap times often lack proper context. Trackside observations suggest Hamilton is still adapting to the SF25. The car displayed some front-end limitations, occasionally leading to understeer and missed apexes. While there were moments when Hamilton looked hooked up and aggressive on corner entry, at other times, the car's balance seemed to work against him. Rear-end instability wasn't exclusive to Hamilton. Leclerc also experienced some rear snaps and lockups, indicating the Ferrari's handling characteristics may take some getting used to. Whether this is an inherent weakness or just part of the team's setup, work remains to be seen. While it's too early to draw definitive conclusions, Ferrari's first test day showed both promise and potential challenges. The coming days of testing will offer a clearer picture of how well Hamilton and his new team can optimize their package. Ferrari's afternoon session saw a notable shift in performance, possibly due to adjustments made following Hamilton's earlier stint. While it wasn't the ideal first day, it was certainly productive. There's plenty for Ferrari and Hamilton to analyze and refine over the coming days. Exactly what testing is for. A flawless start was never expected, and as Hamilton himself noted, he's on a steep learning curve. Day one confirmed just that. Liam Lawson has yet to make his race debut for Red Bull, but the team is already confident in its decision to bring him in as Sergio Perez's replacement. After weeks of integrating with his new team, Lawson has impressed with both his feedback and attitude. In a high-stakes environment where first impressions matter, his insights have already earned praise from engineers who believe his input will accelerate progress. This marks a stark contrast from last season when Red Bull and Perez struggled with car performance, trust issues, and an RB20 that became increasingly challenging to handle. With a renewed sense of balance in the team, Red Bull will surely welcome the stability Lawson brings. Lap times from Mercedes' George Russell and Kimi Antonelli were encouraging, but more importantly, the team's overall sentiment was optimistic. albeit with some caveats. Antonelli wasted no time pushing the 2025 car to its limits, though his aggression led to some rough moments, particularly at turn 10. Despite a few lockups, he reported being happy with the car's balance. Russell echoed that sentiment, delivering strong times in the afternoon and even calling the W6 the best Mercedes has ever felt around Bahrain. However, the unusually cool track temperatures, 18 to 27 degrees Celsius, may have played a role in their performance, conditions that have historically favored Mercedes. As Russell warned, the team must be careful not to overestimate its progress, given Bahrain's usual heat. One of the best ways to gauge performance in testing is by watching cars trackside. Ed Straw did just that, and here's what stood out. McLaren looked strong as expected from preseason favorites. Lando Norris gained confidence in the afternoon, and the car displayed good rotation and traction. Ferrari was intriguing, responsive at times, but inconsistent. Hamilton experimented with different approaches, even locking up at turn 8, while Leclerc seemed more stable. The car shows promise, but needs fine-tuning for consistency and tire management. Red Bull started well, but had some shaky moments. Verstappen struggled with rear grip at turn 10, while Lawson, after a solid morning, spun at turn 3 as he pushed harder. Mercedes appeared well-balanced and confidence-inspiring, though its true pace remains uncertain. Alpine and Williams both showed flashes of promise, with Williams' car looking particularly lively in the midfield. Haas and Sauber had a tough day, with Haas running heavy fuel loads and Sauber displaying corner entry and traction issues. Alpine finds itself in a far better position than last year when it struggled with an overweight and sluggish car. Though slightly behind Williams on day 1, Pierre Gasly's lap times were competitive, and the team feels it has a solid foundation to build on. Under the guidance of ex-Ferrari designer David Sanchez, Alpine has made subtle but potentially impactful changes, such as a shallower side pod inlet and more aggressive aero features. Despite concerns that the new Racing Bulls car might be a direct Red Bull replica, especially given the team's new UK base near Red Bull's headquarters, the design shows distinct differences. While it shares components like suspension and gearbox, the front wing, side pod undercut, and floor details set it apart. However, early testing suggests the team has work to do to unlock its full potential. Haas was the slowest team by a considerable margin, though its focus seemed to be on long runs rather than outright speed. Rookie Oliver Bearman faced challenges adjusting to the track and shifting wind conditions, while Esteban Ocon improved on his time later in the day. Meanwhile, Sauber's car, making its first proper testing appearance, showed limitations in corner entry and traction, raising modest expectations for its transition into the Audi Works team. Wednesday's test session was originally scheduled from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. local time, but an unexpected disruption extended it until 8 p.m.